My name is Simon. I'm here with my good friend.
Hey guys, I'm Christian.
Good. Okay. Perfect. So we're starting off with a question and then we go from there. I wanted to know like something that is very basic, and I feel like it's just some basic information that could help anyone to kind of progress in life, kind of level up a little bit, understanding, getting more into a mindset of where you're not surviving, but where you're actually starting to take control of your life. So, what are the things that you think help people to get out of a low emotional state?
If you want to start to get out of a low emotional state, I feel like our world sometimes revolves on our current outlook of our situation. And no matter how you look at it, sometimes, no matter how much meditating I feel like I've done over my life, I feel like naturally my ego likes to drift towards certain things. And, like I feel like sometimes it wouldn't hurt to work on those things just to kind of ease your mind a bit. Maybe it's your mind pushing you to do something. And a lot of it is for me to push to make my situation better. For me, a lot of reason why I felt that way a lot of the times, low emotional states, because I was so down on my current life situation. It was always kind of constantly beating myself up in my head that like I'm not where I want to be, and I know I'm capable of more. And I think some of the first steps to that is like learning and understanding like what that really means, and like learning to understand what's happening, and then like kind of also accepting like once you learn to understand it, acceptance is so important because you start to it all depends on how you kind of attack that situation, and it can translate to how you attack all situations in your life. Like you can learn to and when you accept like your current circumstances, you're not coming at it from a point of trying to change things so bad, because when you do want to make a change, you finally make that conscious decision that you want to be better. You get into a place where you start to want to make take some action. And I find for my in my situation, it kind of hurt me a little bit when I took action from fear and from worry and from it being so scarce. And I think having acceptance for where you're at can kind of help your state of mind when you are. It's like you can kind of breathe a little bit, like now I can finally move on to this next step. I can finally now that I can kind of accept where you're at. You don't have to like take further action from a place of fear. You're still gonna have fear. That stuff's still gonna pop up, but I think it's transformative when you can kind of accept where you're currently at and move forward from there instead
Yeah.
of beating yourself up and then trying to make changes. You're constantly going to be putting yourself backwards when you beat yourself up like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that comes down to one very big thing, I think, is pressure. If you put pressure on yourself in anything, you won't get the results that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a teacher puts pressure on you to learn something, like how does that feel? No, it doesn't feel good, and it's not going to motivate you to get better, to
Right.
learn, right? So I think the most important thing, as you said, is being able to accept like infinitely your exact state that you're in right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not accept it to the point where you can say, okay, I can stay here. Accept it, but still have the drive. I think when you put too much pressure on yourself, you want to do too much at the same time, and that's where like anxiety stems from, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you want to, like, okay, I'm behind in life, shit, I got to do something. No, that does not work. That does not work for
Right.
anyone. And I think that's where I felt like I've gotten into a source of receiving and of doing into a flow of moving forward, because I didn't put pressure on myself. I accepted my emotional state or everything,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in like an alpha state, or many times throughout the day, like in a very relaxed state where I was able to do things, and until now, where I feel like I'm taking a lot of action.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not always in everything that I want to do, but I'm moving forward in my life, every day, and I think it has a lot to do with me just understanding that I can relax about it. There's still moments where anxiety wants to creep up. I do feel them in my body, but yeah. And as you said, like that the first step of everything, of every change, is consciousness, as you said. And I think acceptance, right? And then the will to move forward. If you can tell about like a step, something you can do. uh, What has helped you?
Like perhaps a tip.
Yeah.
Um, a tip for me that I've recently gotten into that has had an effect on my state of mind. I'll share it because I tried it and it has an effect. It gives me a little bit of faith. But I think it's important to have a little bit of faith in yourself, to have like confidence about the future, you know. And I find that visualization like that really helps me. Like having an idea of what I desire and like learning to feel what that would feel like. So like at night or in the day when like you're kind of sleepy, or like if you're good at meditating and you kind of like you like the meditative states, like you're really good with the brain states and stuff like that. I'm not so good with like the terminology, but getting yourself into like a calm place where you can kind of influence your mind, it's really hard to influence it in that moment of like anxiety and worry. So if you can learn to kind of get a good clear image of what you want, like you don't even have to use your kind of use whatever sensory modules you really like, because I like to just feel into things with like not my emotions but just like kind of feeling it. Some people like to create an image in their head and like run through scenarios in their head. That works for some people. Like some people like to feel like I said, get the physical sensations, like use their senses and feel it and feel into it. Everyone has their own ways. And for me, it's just feeling into it, and just it does kind of give me a bit of faith in of it. Like it's almost like training my subconscious, because I really what you're battling right now is your subconscious patterns. There's a lot of like you have a set vibration right now, and it's vibrating at a certain state that you don't have any control over necessarily while you're in certain brain states. You don't have control over like the manipulating that vibration, and like your everything around you in the world is a big mirror of what you're vibrating at. And you can really learn to start seeing what's going on in your life and what's happening in yourself just by looking outwards and seeing what triggers you. And I find that visualize it, like let's go back to going back to visualization. It does help to gain faith. And like I said, having faith in your future is really important because it helps your state of mind, like not thinking you're going to go anywhere and just constantly dwelling on that. Like I said earlier, like beating yourself up is a huge energy shift compared to having hope and like visualizing and saying, giving yourself permission to like be faithful in something,
Yeah,
trusting. And
totally.
also one more thing I want to say is having that feeling and like not getting too attached to it happening in a certain way. It's more or less about getting the feeling of it and understanding that the feeling is what you're after, not the actual items. So the world can kind of manifest things to you like based on the feeling. So not getting too attached to certain outcomes, like living in the unknown. Like embrace that things can manifest in different ways that honestly your minds cannot even imagine sometimes.
Yeah.
Like like your mind might think that you want a certain lifestyle and you'll get something else that gives you the same exact feeling, and you're like, wow, I never would have, you know, never would have thought that something like this would have happened.
Exactly, Christian. And I saw that in another podcast, the
Mm-hmm.
emotion is really the reward for everything that you
Mm-hmm.
do. It's really the reward. Like it's not about many people, I think they do visualizations and they want to create this big life, but maybe that doesn't align with you. Like you
Mm-hmm.
want that emotion, but I was thinking like the other day, I was I was visualizing a big house and I'm like, I don't know if I really align with that. Like, I just want a beautiful, a nice house, but it doesn't have to be too big.
Right.
Or I want to live close to the forest, for example. I love the forest. I love taking hikes. So so I'm thinking about that. And the most important thing, you said it, man. Faith is the first thing that you unlock. It's like you have to unlock certain things, right, in your life to move forward. Faith is the very first thing that I unlocked, because even though I was, raised by a Christian mother and everything and prayed to God, I never really had that faith. So I
Mm-hmm.
unlocked the faith in 2018, and that's when I was able to snowball that. And you know what you
Mm-hmm.
do? Like I think the thing that segues from faith is creating expectancy is very important. Creating expectancy means that creating the belief that, for example, today could be a good day. Like
Yeah.
you always want to, like, your ego, when you wake up, your identity wants to go back into what you know, and maybe it's a low
Mm-hmm.
emotional state. But
Yeah.
what if you change that around? What if you just said, okay, you know what, today I'm going to have a good day? And if you have the faith, I think you can slowly start to make progress within that, you
Hmm.
know, like
Yeah.
tell yourself, say this, wouldn't it be nice today if I had some, say if you're a nurse, like I had some really nice patients that loved me. Wouldn't it be nice if my doctor appreciated my work? Like just do that. I have been doing that for a few days now.
Hmm.
And since then, like I'm a teacher at a preschool, like all of my classes have been so cool. Like I even was having so much fun. I
Hmm.
think creating expectancy, like create that expectancy that things actually can go your way. Like you think it wouldn't, like,
Hmm.
but yeah, totally. Like create that expectancy. I think that's like really important and the first thing you can implement easily into your life. That just tell yourself, wouldn't it be nice if this happened this way?
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to add to that is like learning to like have fun with it. Like have fun with like the things you're visualizing. Like it doesn't have to be because you get it's hard. It's easy, really easy to get dead set on that one thing happening in your visualization, and then you get like maybe I learned this a lot from Abraham Hicks, and she talks about like well the vibe I get from that is like she talks about the vibration behind the things you're doing, and she talks a lot about like enjoying the journey and enjoying the process of like you getting there. Like you're like you have a pathway there. There's no point of like sitting there like complaining about the ride there the whole time, you know. And it's like visualizing for fun. She talks. There was one story I heard from her, and she talked about how like she was like house hunting, but she was looking just because she liked to look at houses, you know, and she didn't expect to really buy a house. And she was just looking around because that's fun for her, walking around houses and just looking at stuff like that. And by the end of the day, I think I'm not sure how the story went, but I get what I got from it is that there's a huge energy behind it's a huge energy difference behind just kind of doing it for fun or kind of doing it to get something like to get a house, you know, this it makes you feel a different way. But I just wanted to add that on to what you said. It made me think of that.
Abraham Hicks, is that a woman?
Abraham, I think her name is Esther Hicks, but she channels higher
Yes,
states of mind and higher consciousness, and she calls it Abraham. So in her videos, when she talks, she's channeling Abraham to her viewers. That's how she describes it.
I've heard about that. There was another person that did that as well.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
like
cool to
they,
see people who go all in on that because they really, it's true, and like they really, it's a beautiful thing to see sometimes, like the way she talks.
yeah, but I think it's crazy because I think many of us channel that higher
Yeah.
intelligence when we talk. Like unconsciously, we do it. You know,
Hmm.
I think sometimes I get into this flow state and like I talk and like I'm not nervous, right? I start
Hmm.
flowing and then oh, it's like the words they just they ooze out of me. You know.
Hmm. And that's like I was
um,
saying earlier before we started the video, how I said how like sometimes we can almost like connect to a higher consciousness when we're talking. Like
yeah.
sometimes when I make a video, I don't even look at my script halfway through it because it's like I'm channeling. We all do channeling in a certain way. It's like, and it's just learning to hone it on your own. That's kind of my version of channeling is channeling that consciousness, you know?
Yeah, but I want to go back to having fun with visualizations. Like, I think many people see, and then I want to go to what you just said.
Hmm.
Many people, I think they see meditation and doing that as effort. Like, oh man, I gotta do this now. I think,
Right.
I think, I think you
I
can
feel that
change
way
that.
sometimes too. Trust
Yeah,
me.
but yeah, because you feel like you have to do it the right way. Like, oh man, you put all this pressure on yourself. But I have been doing meditation for many years now. I feel like it's gotten easier for me, and I get into this alpha brainwave state easily. Like really quickly. I can do it in a snap of a finger, especially since I've done the Silva mind control method course here,
Hmm.
and I think it's really good to have a good relationship with that, because then you can do it more often, then you do it more frequently.
Hmm.
um, for example, I've been doing these energy visualizations with grounding, with being in your body, also from a course, and they have felt so easy to me. Like I can do them anytime. Like they don't feel like work. They feel like very, very easy to do. And that's important. I think that's a big thing, having a good relationship with meditation, visualization, like make it work for you. Not
Yeah.
everything everyone puts out works that necessarily for you,
Exactly.
but make it work for you, and just do it in your way. Like anything, like if any thoughts come, it doesn't matter, man. Just do it and keep doing it. Just keep
Hmm.
doing it and don't judge yourself at all. Because that's, yeah, of course, when you get into this pressure mindset, into this judgmental mindset, um, and that's probably the issue. Yeah, maybe the meditation, they it's important to have them like free flowing, but just do it as just do it, just do it. Don't do anything else, but just
Right.
start that, I don't know, maybe audio, or just get into that state, and yeah, and after, you will feel always elated, like every time you do something that feels like maybe a little bit of work, a little bit of a burden, like you don't know, but always on the other side you will feel so much better. Just think of that emotion on the other side of doing it, like that reward that you get in the end,
Hmm.
like.
I actually stopped meditating a long time ago and visualizing because of that. Exactly. I was afraid that I was going to cause something bad to happen because I couldn't visualize. I thought that I was reading a lot of Neville Goddard, and if anyone doesn't know who he is, he emphasizes a lot on visualization and like feeling into things. And I was so putting so much pressure on myself to like get this visualization right, to get every aspect of it right, to feel every certain emotion. And when something would rise up like resistance, because I mean, naturally your mind's like, hey, this isn't who we are, like what the heck, and just sends up some resistance. And when I started to see that, I freaked out, and like I would like my focus, I wasn't very good at focusing. So like my mind would instantly go right to that distraction or right to whatever my pattern was getting triggered by that visualization. And I stopped because it was putting so much pressure on me, and it was putting me in such a negative state of mind. I was judging myself all the time. Like, why can't I do this? Like he makes it sound so
Yeah.
easy. All these thoughts going into my head of like doubt and worry and fear, it drove me away from visualizing for a while.
Mm.
And I find that it does help, but it's also not needed. Like maybe if you're not someone who likes to visualize, you can, but you still have like an idea of where you're at or where you want to go, that's fine. It's just meditating and does help. Like I said, one part of it. But if you can find ways, some people use vision boards. Some people use like visual, like actual physical representations to help remind their subconscious every day of something. So like you said before, whatever works for you. Because for a
Yeah,
long time I had to do without visualization, and it still worked for me. I still had hope, still had a little bit of faith, but it does. It's just a tool that you can use to help you, not an end all be all. I found.
exactly. Yeah, you're right. um that's the beauty of it. Like, it can be so easy. All you have to do is put in the effort to put up some pictures, or to put up some signs that say something that you want to be. For example, I'm enough. I'm enough.
Right.
And that stuff it just comes into your unconscious. You don't even have to make an effort after that. So that's like, if you feel like it's difficult for you to take this action every day of visualizing, start with that. Like, start listening to an audio. Like, I love listening to Louise Hay. When I actually got a CD in 2017, which was a big catalyzer also in my growth, in my change.
Hmm.
And I listened to that, and it just starts seeping into your unconscious even without you thinking that it does. And all of the sudden, like, you look back and you think, okay, something has changed. I'm not
Hmm.
having these conflictive thoughts anymore as much as I used to. I'm not thinking as negatively anymore as much as I used to. I even
Hmm.
like myself, like, more, like things change. They change.
Yeah.
You don't even have to put in an effort. And
Exactly. Yeah.
but I do want to talk about what you said, like, with with the perfectionism. It's all about CCIA. That's what I heard once. Committed, consistent, imperfect action. So,
Yes.
and because what happens is, when you do that, your action actually becomes better. It becomes like practice is king. You have to
Hmm.
practice something. You can't just say, okay, I'll
Yeah.
do it now and it's going to be perfect. No, that's why I've been doing YouTube videos now consistently, for example,
Right.
still trying to trying to improve them always a little bit, and the last thing I want to get into is try to be conscious of your higher mind. Christian, if you want to try this, like put your consciousness in the center of your head. Put it in the center of your head.
You want me to close my eyes?
Yeah, you don't need to close your eyes, but it's maybe
It
easier.
helps me.
Yeah, and then now, is your consciousness within the center of your head? Like, okay, now what you do? Where is the higher mind? Like, there's a space that you can access where the higher mind is, located. Like, maybe not scientifically, but so go up and back a little bit from the center of your head. That's where you can access the higher mind. You don't need to be there, but it helps. And it feels relaxing. I don't know if you feel it.
I did for a second. I was like, okay.
Like, okay, now I'm in this place of like observation.
Right.
I can actually observe my thoughts from here. And do that like every morning when you wake up. Like, what are your first thoughts? Like, get into your higher mind for 2 minutes and see your thoughts. Don't think your thoughts, but see them, because you don't have to think them. You don't have to identify yourself with the thoughts. They can pass by like clouds, like, okay.
Do you ever get like physical side effects whenever you feel like you get a download, or whenever you feel like you receive some sort of information from your higher self? Do you ever feel like you get some sort of like maybe physical representation like that goes on in your body?
Just an emotional state or vibration?
I know a couple years ago, I'm not sure if I went through this exactly, but I remember I was at such a point where every time I felt a negative emotion, like I felt like goosebumps throughout my body, like almost like I was moving through something, or energy was trying to shift or something. But I was at a point where it was affecting my physical so much. I went to the hospital because I was in such a place with my anxiety. This is before a lot of my awakening stuff, but I was in such a point where I didn't know what was going on with my body. Every time I had an emotion, like my whole body was kind of freaking out. Then I kind of had my spiritual awakening. I started to kind of know, I started being aware of that, what was happening. And sometimes it still happens. Sometimes I get shivers whenever I feel like I'm receiving a download, or sometimes I get um, like a little, like a pulling in my forehead sometimes. Like I've read up on the like pineal glands and third eye, and I don't want to say anything for sure, but I was just curious on if you had ever experienced anything like that.
Welcome back to the Consciouscape Podcast. This is part 2. We went into the spiritual, being conscious part, some practical advice. I'm more practical. And Christian is definitely very philosophical and spiritual, but I think we bounce off each other quite well. I do want to start with just steps you can take to go from a low emotional state to a better kind of state. I see it as information within you, or like say your body is hardware. Software is you need the right kind of software. Apart from, I think meditation is such a good vehicle to becoming more spiritual, having more faith. But then you also need kind of the right information, and it can be any kind of information that helps you kind of proceed in life. It can be very practical. Like, I love very practical stuff, like Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you've read the book, that's your 12 erroneous zones. Like,
I've heard of them.
That was my Bible in 2018. I got so into that and into practicing what he said, because it was so easy for me to intake. It wasn't abstract at all. He gave you clear examples, of things you might be doing and how you can improve that. So it's such a good book. I think that's why it's also such a bestseller, I believe, because of the practical aspect of it. So I see as imagine a bookshelf, and you kind of take out the kind of books that don't serve you, and you put in the kind of information, the kind of books that serve you. So I think it's just so important to mention, and I want to hear your opinion about this. To not watch any news, and I would say like eliminate TV completely from your life, but
Hmm.
especially the news. So I get into why it's really important, but I wanna hear your opinion about this, and what you've been doing. Like,
I think TV and stuff is definitely we all kind of get a dopamine release from anytime we do anything we enjoy. Obviously, that's kind of the main root of our, I guess, human side of our happiness is our dopamine release when we do stuff that we like. And TV is definitely, humans can get addicted to anything, and we get addicted to dopamine. And sometimes we overdo it, and it feels like it can affect us when we overdo it, I feel. My belief personally is that there is good ways to kind of maintain it to where you're not overdoing it completely. Because I definitely have been guilty of overdoing it in my life for sure. And I think one thing that can help that helped me, I learned this from Aaron Doughty, and he talked because he talked about how he used to be a lot like that too. He's a spiritual coach in our kind of in our area of expertise. But he says how what can really help is like kind of giving yourself breaks and like rewarding yourself, like maybe push that if you do want to like truly kind of overcome like watching too much TV and overcome that dopamine release addiction that we all do. It can be helpful. You can get a little bit more clear headed when you do detach a little bit from TV and stuff like that, because it's almost like if you watch a movie or so long, it feels like you get up feeling like a zombie because like you kind of just got like hit with all this dopamine all at once, and then you kind of like whoa. It's almost like a rush, and like limiting yourself, maybe try to go to the end of the day, because I know it's dopamine. I could easily wake up and eat like ice cream and watch Netflix, and like I could easily that'd be the easiest thing in the world to do. But like you got to have a little bit of discipline with yourself, like, and it's almost like that stuff is even better when you do it at the end of the day when you wait for it, because it's like that rush is better. It's almost, if you do it for too long, it kind of gets to be a little tedious. I've definitely experienced that too, like watching too much and like just being overdoing it. You kind of feel like, you know.
yeah,
But I think limiting it, and if the first step to kind of eliminate it completely, if that's what you want to do. If not, just doing a little less is just kind of rewarding yourself at the end of the day. Like letting yourself go all out after you've completed everything, or you can kind of give your body a little room, because it does make it better, like I said. But that's my
yeah.
take on it.
So I think that's very good. I think you have we're talking about gratification here, right? And Marissa Peer, the hypnotherapist, she says one of the biggest habits of successful people is delaying gratification, and I've been doing that. I've been doing that since I watched that, or since I did that course. And
Hmm.
what I'm doing now is like I'm sometimes at 10 o'clock, like very late. I'm eating because I'm delaying gratification, and it's not the best thing, but that's what's happening now.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm like I'm way too late. I want to go to sleep, but I still want to get my gratification. So
Right. Yeah.
but I think that's a very important thing to touch on. That it has to do with discipline, and discipline is something you can learn. If you haven't learned it, if you haven't been taught discipline, you can learn it, and you have to.
Hmm.
It's like, for example, me. I think discipline comes easier because I used to do sports, and I think sports help you with discipline, and also just my wiring. How I'm wired is I'm very good with it. I'm very good with not giving myself the things I want right away. So I can do that well, and I think maybe you can do it as well. So I think, just as Christian said, take one little step. Like, okay, now you would usually eat. Okay, how about you do something, and then you would gratify yourself, but in this case, or this time, you do the next thing, and then you gratify yourself. So
Right.
it's just, like, as Wayne Dyer or said, or I think I heard that from him, like every moment is a new opportunity. Every moment you're this new person, you can take a new decision. You don't have to fall back to your old wiring. You can
Hmm.
create new wiring. And
Can I add
I,
something to that real quick?
yeah, definitely.
Um, I think the discipline you kind of attain on your own is infinitely more valuable than someone who's been disciplining you in your life, because it can definitely teach you discipline, but then once you're on your own, it's like you got no one there to discipline you, and it's almost like you kind of almost. I think self discipline, learn it to discipline yourself in that, or is like a completely different thing than being disciplined throughout your life. And it can definitely be. I feel like that's a great lesson and great tool to use as your own self discipline over. I feel like that's a better people who are self disciplined like that, who have to learn on their own, are more disciplined. I feel, just from a
Um,
different observation.
I would I would kind of disagree with that because when a person disciplines you, it it converts into self-discipline. If, for
Okay.
example,
Yeah.
my mother, I'm 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 glad. Like my mother, I didn't like her kitchen, her cooking. She was not kitchen, her cooking.
Oh, okay.
She was like cooking very healthy and like sometimes very
Oh,
unorganized. But yeah, I mean, and also so first that she wasn't like indulging us with like a delicious food, but with healthy food. And
okay.
also she would delay gratification with, for example, getting an ice cream at the swimming pool. She would tell us, okay, first you have to eat these fruits or this fruit, and then you can get your ice cream. So
Okay.
these little things, I think they're huge, especially if you're a parent. Like I think they're huge. They make a big difference, and that's what creates self-discipline. Like if a person teaches you discipline, then I think I think you can have it for life, or you can lose
Hmm.
it if you want to. Like if you want to become more comfortable, you can lose it. But if you want to be successful, there's certain steps, there's certain things you need to do. For
That would.
example, apart from
Okay.
that, and I apart from delaying gratification, doing something that makes you uncomfortable and that leads you towards your goal every day.
Something I wanted to add on to that is that that's a good take on it. I didn't think about it like that. You're kind of right that someone else disciplining you can really help. But sometimes there are situations where you don't get that person. You kind of have to create it on your own. So I guess it's just the different situations I was comparing. But yeah, that's a good. I did not see it that way. You kind of changed my mind on that a little bit.
Yeah, no, totally. If no one has done it, then you have to do it yourself.
Hmm.
But before we go further, I just wanted to talk about what TV does and what kind of effect it has on you, especially the
Hmm.
news, because the news have been designed not to keep you informed, but to actually keep you within a mindset that is totally inflexible and makes you feel like you have no power over your life. What it does, it stimulates your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that hooks onto the negative, it latches onto the negative things.
Hmm.
And the TV, so TV, what TV does is, okay, it puts their focus on this, and this, and all of that is negative. Like there's so many good things. Not
Right.
TV. I'm sorry. I don't like TV in general, but I just want to talk more about the news here.
Okay.
It just focuses on the negative stuff, and it tells you, oh, how bad is the economy? How bad are the politicians? How bad is this and that? And it makes you think, oh shit, I am, I'm, I'm not well off. I'm fucked, you know.
Right.
So, and like it's this big conspiracy, but we human beings are not meant. We are not being empowered. We're being stripped of our powers by society totally. And so I think it's just important that you are conscious about this, because and so taking off the news and actually putting your focus on the right things. And that's so important. Like I love this saying, expansion through attention. you put your attention on the right things, right? Like the things that actually enrich you, the things that help you to expand your potential, to live off your potential. And that's the big secret, I feel like when you can do that, you take off the negative influences in your life, like not only people and not only TV, but actually people as well, the kind of people that always talk about the bad stuff, the kind of friends that keep you also kind of in that crisis mindset or
Mhm.
survival mindset. And you put in the right stuff, which is reading the right books or listening to the right podcast. You can listen to this podcast as well.
Yes, you
And
can.
just that's that's really the big thing. uh what do you think about that?
I think it definitely depends on your belief behind it. Like anything, if you think TV's bad for you and you keep watching it, yeah, you're gonna feel bad about it. I feel like there is a way to kind of have a healthy view about anything. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop you from expanding. If you're on a path of expansion, I don't think there's any one thing that can hinder you. Um, but like I said, it can definitely help to kind of cut away some of the things that can be hurting your state of mind. Like I said, with the TV and news, how you say that's meant to keep you in a box, state of mind wise. I think that is very true. I think that's something that not enough people are aware of. And I think that's why it's able to be operated, because I think the people who are aware of it don't outweigh the people who are still kind of controlled by it, and maybe 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have anyone who was outside of the news, like maybe now that there are people who are finally starting to see, hey, starting to realize it for what it is. And, but like you make a lot of good points on that. How has cutting out TV entirely affected your life, would you say?
Oh, I think it's been a big part of my change, of my growth.
Because
uh
I
just
don't, I haven't cut out
because of
TV, but I
that,
am curious to what you think about it.
i think I think not only has it helped me actually redirect kind of my focus and attention, cutting
Mhm.
it out, but it leaves space for different things. And I think that's the big part here. I don't watch anything, read anything news wise, or watch any TV.
Do you try to look
So
away when you see it in public? Do you like try to like shield your eyes a little bit?
no, it's not that bad. But what it does, it gives you more time. It gives you, okay, now what can I do? Like
Hmm.
just subconsciously I did that. Like, okay, I don't watch TV. I mean, for a long time I haven't watched any. So okay, now I can do stuff that actually enriches me. And I think it just helps you as well with dopamine, because dopamine is something that really keeps us so trapped, I feel like, as you said before. Uh, and yeah, it comes down to, no, dopamine comes with in many different aspects. Like you can also do gaming, you can look at your cell phone all the time. So when you take out certain things in your life that give you these dopamine flashes, um, then it helps you be more disciplined. It helps you be more stoic, maybe more, okay, like control of your mind. Like when you also when you do sports or exercise, like that helps you as well. Like
Hmm.
because you can because when you actually discipline your body, you also discipline your mind, because it's connected. So
I
I
agree.
think the last thing I want to say about
I'd
this
also like to
is,
add one thing whenever you're done, if I could.
yeah, you can add it right now. You can add it right
Okay.
now.
I wanted to say how over time I feel like you've grown. I didn't know you before, obviously, but I think over time maybe you've grown to where now you have the natural impulses to do these things that you do.
Yeah.
And I feel like over time I've gained some natural impulses to the things that I do. I feel like over time it's important to have patience with yourself. If you're not this super disciplined person, it's important not to beat yourself up if you don't like be this perfect disciplined person the second you figure out about it. Like I said, getting on 1% better every day, or like setting a few goals that day, like, hey, I can accomplish this and this, and then I can go do whatever, like giving yourself a reward to where you can build up. It's like a dopamine release in and of its own. We're so used to getting like an automatic dopamine release that we've forgotten what it feels like to work for something and then get the dopamine release that comes from that. Like that comes from like actually working and trying to do something and getting it. I think the dopamine from that release is way better than getting something constantly every day that's the same. And you'll start to kind of get bored of that. Like your mind is going to want something more and more. That's how dopamine works. Like you don't get the same release every time. You like your body, your mind needs more. So find something else that'll give it that sort of release, you know?
Yeah, totally, exactly. But I do want to emphasize, like, there's the good and the bad dopamine. Like you can have the bad
Mm.
dopamine, which is just mentioned, like TV, not TV, because there's good movies. Like I don't want
They
to take
like,
that
yeah,
away
someone
from
might be
you.
watching this on TV and it's not
Documentaries,
bad
you
dopamine.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, I wanted to say news, but there's that good kind of dopamine, you know, like, okay, a healthy snack. You know, you did your work. Now you can have a healthy snack, but don't necessarily go to McDonald's, you know. That's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
But actually get your dopamine in a good way, you know, in a healthy way. And as I said, I think that's so I think the best thing you can start doing is really trying to delay that dopamine, trying to delay
Hmm.
it more and more. And as you said, like, be patient with yourself and don't criticize yourself if you don't do it, because it's not easy. It's not hard, an easy habit to get rid of, you know,
Hmm.
if you have your dopamine fixes then and then and then.
Right.
But if you tell yourself, okay, now I'm just going to do a little bit more than yesterday, you know, like maybe work 5 minutes more before I get my gratification,
Hmm.
or I'm going to look a little bit less at my phone, for example. I
Right.
think that's such a big thing. And the last thing I want to say is just, I think it needs to be said, be aware that life is challenging. I don't want to say hard, you know, life is not hard, but actually it's not necessarily challenging. But if you want a good life, you need to have challenges. Like you need
Yeah.
to accept challenges. People who are successful, if you want to be successful, for example, it's not because you don't have any challenges, it's because you've learned to deal with challenges. And if you have challenges, if you have a little challenge every day, or you challenge yourself, if your job is not challenging, maybe you don't have that responsibility, you can challenge yourself, like, okay, today I will make a I don't know, I for example do a Facebook live to challenge myself, or put up a YouTube video. It
Hmm.
challenges me and it helps me grow, and I see the holistic view of, okay, this doesn't just help me getting likes. No, I want to become better at speaking. I want to become better at saying what I think. I want to create, I want to get over these hurdles because I want to get
Hmm.
somewhere, you know. So it's important to be said, like, if you want to have a good life, you need to accept challenges. Yeah,
And one thing I want to add to that is you looking at challenges in a different way. If you, instead of seeing challenges as something that you've never accomplished before, you can see it as like a way for you to grow. Because it's like any challenge you've ever overcome, like you've grown from and learned something from. Like you don't have to see like worrying about the future, worrying about, oh, there's going to be challenges in life. That's not what I want. Like that's what you want, because that'll give you the knowledge to continue and face other things in your life, you know? So looking at them as like good things, it's like you want challenge and you want those things that are going to push you past your own limits.
exactly, totally,
Those
man.
are the best gifts you could have.
Because if you're going to stay in your comfort zone, as we know, you're not going to get anywhere else, because you're going to
Right.
get the same results from doing the same things. And as you said, and as I mentioned before, it's the holistic view. I think that will help you. That will help anyone. Like, what could this for example, say you do something for work, you know, you have to write a text maybe. Think about in what ways you can grow yourself by doing that. Don't think
Hmm.
about, okay, shit, oh man, I don't want to do this right now. This is just a text. No, Maybe this can help me become better at writing. Maybe I can, if I do this more often, I can actually express my wording better, write better. Maybe start a blog at some point. Like, what
And it
else?
might have benefits that you don't even know about. Like sometimes just
Yeah,
being present and doing it can reap benefits that you didn't even think that would happen before. It's just important to kind of keep your mind open to what could come in that moment.
exactly, exactly. So if I think that also helps with motivation, if you find more than this one reason that is probably the negative reason that, oh, I have to get this done because it's a deadline, right?
Hmm.
No. So what can this help me with? That helps motivating you, I believe. So, I mean, it's always good to find some motivation outside of, within the things that you have to get done during the day. Have to. That's another term that I never say have to anymore. I've learned to say I want to or I choose to,
Yeah.
because I don't want to feel any pressure on myself. And I think it makes things a little bit easier when you like the words create emotions. Words are so important. They have such a, like, it's important to magnify how important words are. And
Hmm.
if you can change your own wording during the day, we'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah.
Then you can have it has such an impact, because if you say have to, that's like, oh, you're like in a slave mindset. I feel like, and
Yeah.
I want to do the things I do. Like, I
Definitely.
want to have a job. I want to have that I like, that I love. And I think if you don't, like, okay, your mindset is maybe not where you want it to be yet. And I'm not saying I have the life that I perfectly want to live, but I do feel like I'm getting there. I do feel like I'm making strides towards it.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanna add to that, or you know?
Um, no, I think you kind of hit it on the head, really. I was just kind of entranced by what you were saying.
Yeah, totally. As I said, last thing, I think, just get used to putting the right software in. Get used to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you now know, like, you can cut out the kind of stuff that puts the focus on the wrong things, that can damage you even. um,
Right.
and now cut that out, and when you cut it out, you have more time for other things.